certainly Glen Cove has changed a lot, and one of the subjects we're interested in is how it's changed over the years and how people look at the changes, what you remember used to be here and what's here now. But of course, Stango's has been here for a long time, and I'm sure it's changed a bit. But it is a landmark here, and everybody knows it. It's you always know Stango's is in Glen Cove, whatever happens to the rest of the city.
That's right.
So I thought maybe you could begin by telling us a little bit about
Stango's?
About Stango's and what you remember from
when
you were young.
My parents started Stango's, and it started because lots of the immigrants came from Italy, and they came without their families and without their wives, and they're very young, very much like the immigrants of today. And they needed someone to make their lunch, because at that time, I'm sure you've heard, that Glen Cove was just a very large estates. The people that worked on the estates and the few merchants that were in downtown. And they started by making their lunches and having something ready for them to eat when they came home from work. And they did all of the stonework on the estates, all of the beautiful, beautiful walls that you see now. That was mostly all of the Italian people. And a funny story is that the Italian men were very children-oriented. They loved children. And the children of the estates would share their lunches. And when the nannies would call them to come in to eat, they already ate. And they said, who'd you eat with? Francesca, Giuseppe, Matteo. And they were saying that how they enjoyed that food. And pretty soon, they started to come here for dinner. The wealthy people themselves. And their children still come, and their grandchildren still come.
Yes.
And there are families that have been coming here for 5 generations.
5 generations.
The Whittings. Do you know the Whittings?
Yes.
Yes. The grandfather, Harry Whitting, worked in Mineola. And he came by train to the Glen Street station. He'd come here, and of course it was Prohibition, but all of the Italian people, wine was their staple. They all drank wine.
Sure.
There was no sin to drink wine, you know, because the politicians thought so, they didn't. And they all made their own wine. And Harry Whitting would sit with a teacup and a teapot with wine, and he would bring in the Times, and he would sit up there just about where those people are sitting, and he would be very quiet, was a nice gentleman. He'd read the papers, and then he would go home. And one day his wife, who did the laundry for the millionaires, came in and said, Mr. Whitting, we have to deliver the laundry. And he says, Mrs. Whitting, I'll be right home. But he stayed there, finished his paper, and then he went home to deliver the laundry. And that's Glen Cove, you know? It was everybody that did. Then Mr. Whitting had a son who opened up a funeral parlor, and then his 2 sons continued, and now their sons are there. And many times,
Sure.
They're here for dinner.
Yeah. Now, when did your parents start the restaurant, or when did they?
Well, in 1919.
1919.
And they lived in Brooklyn, and they came here because it was the country. And my father worked in a factory where they made sterling silver and polished, and all of the fumes gave him black lung. So he came here to Glen Cove and bought quite a bit of property. And he still went to the city and came home in the evening. And he used to bring fruit for the children. And fruit then, Glen Cove didn't have access to all of the fresh fruit like today. And the Italian woman would ask my mother, could you sell me some apples? Could you sell me some bananas? That my father would take. And so from that, little by little, then the lunches, and then the restaurant, and that's how you travel.
Now, this whole section was called the Orchard.
It was called the Orchard, and before the Italians settled, I understand that German people were here, then Irish people were here, and then the Italian people came in. And all of the houses you could see were built right on the sidewalk because the back of the houses were gardens. And that's where they raised their chickens. Some had pigs, some had goats, some had, and their children played. They have big gardens, big vegetable gardens. Gorgeous. And they feel that what we're doing is such a waste with all the lawns, you know?
Yeah. Well, I know my wife's family is Italian. And
Then you understand.
Brooklyn. And I remember the houses there, right up on the street. And then whatever little piece of ground
Then you
there
know
was
what
in
I'm
the
talking
back,
about.
there was always a garden.
Always a garden.
Always a garden.
And they were beautiful, weren't they?
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. And there's nothing like a tomato from the garden, right?
That's right.
You go back there, a little salt. Yeah.
Now, so you grew up here in Glen Cove?
Yes.
And what do you remember in particular from your
I
time?
remember, and I wish it was still here, there used to be neighborhood houses. Did you hear about them?
I know about neighborhood houses, but I haven't heard about the ones here in Glen Cove.
There was a Lincoln House. I don't remember exactly where they were. And that was mostly for the black people. There was the Polish Hall. There was a neighborhood house. And I don't remember them all, but anyhow. And then there was the Orchard House, which was right here on my property, where we parked the cars, you know.
Oh.
And that's where all of the girls and the boys learned the American way of life, because our parents were Italians. And we had a woman who ran it, and her name was Mrs. Wolf.
Mrs. Wolf?
Wolf. I think she was English. She was very strict, very knowledgeable, and they had a stage there. We had plays. There was a basketball court. The boys had football clubs, you know. They played football. The Orchard boys played against the Landing boys, and and it was very sports oriented. All of the parents went to the games. It was a real wonderful small town life.
Yeah, interesting.
They had a kindergarten there, and then they would bring in teachers that taught us how to crochet and knit, and we would knit little blankets and sweaters for the orphans, you know. And that's how we learned to knit, and that's how we learned to do lots of beautiful needlework.
Yeah.
And it was a wonderful place to go. You were out of the streets.
Right.
It was very well supervised. Too bad they don't have more of them. They waste a lot of money on a lot of junk. But in those days, these homes, these houses were supported by the very wealthy people. That was their charity. That was the Mrs. Simpson. I'm not positive that she was one, but this maybe was her particular charity. And she would come in, and she would be very proud of the things that we did, and they had a library there. We could take books out, cooking classes.
Now, when you say that the houses, the neighborhood houses, were supported by the wealthy people
I'm
here
pretty
in
sure
Glen
that's
Cove,
yes.
I see.
I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Right.
You could check that out, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It was very, very interesting. Then when they had to all pay taxes, because, as you know, you're a historian, they didn't pay taxes, income taxes. Once they had that to do, then all of the charity things went out the window. And then came the war, and the Orchard House was turned over to Father Dante, who was the priest at the time, and all of the girls went to work in the war factories, you know, and stuff like that. So it kind of dwindled out. It didn't have the money to support all of those things. And so they threw it down, and we bought it and put a parking lot there. But I'm so sorry, because the people today could certainly use something like that. Certainly could.
Yeah.
The schools aren't open to them, and there's really no place for them to meet. That's where a lot of the girls met their boyfriends, married,
Sure.
and lived for 15, 60 years, not 50, 60 days, you know.
Sure. Now, what do you remember in Glen Cove during the Depression?
Before the Depression, did they tell you that we had a trolley car?
Yes, I know.
You know all that.
Yes.
During the Depression, it was very difficult. It seemed like an exodus. Every boy, the day after Pearl Harbor, ran to enlist. And the only ones that were left were the ones that were not well enough to join the Army. They had something wrong with their heart, their limbs, or whatever. But I had two brothers that went. My mother adopted a boy. He went, so there were three from this house. My husband went. Three brothers from his house. So every house had, you know, they had the little stars in the window, whatever. Every house, every boy was in the service. And there was a woman who rode a bicycle. And when one was missing or one was killed, she would, it makes me cry to think of it, but you would hear her bell on the bicycle, and everybody's heart stood still until she passed your house. You know, it was hard. And quite a few boys were killed. We had, at one time, pictures of all of the boys. I'm sure you'll find it if you ask Newsday or the Record Pilot. All of the boys that were killed in the service from this area and other areas, you know. But I knew all of them. It was very difficult. So many of the mothers, that's what happened to the boys. And so many of the boys came back. Their mothers either had major heart attacks or were dead. It was very difficult for them to cope with that. Very, very difficult years. And when my brothers were gone, then I ran the restaurant by myself. My mother was one of the mothers with the heart attack. And years ago, when they had a heart attack, they were supposed to be in bed for 6 weeks. Now they make them get up, which is much smarter. But they didn't know. So she was an invalid, and I ran the restaurant. And we had a Fife shipyard. I'm sure you heard of that. Mm-hmm. And the soldiers from Mackey's estate. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
Roslyn.
Oh, Harbor Hill.
Is that what they called it?
Mackey Estate?
Mackey estate.
Oh.
Yeah.
And they were all here. All of those soldiers, all of those sailors. And they soon learned that this was no place to fool around. If they did the shore patrol, or there was one, I even remember his name. His name was Arnold Pellegrini, and he was the top sergeant of Mackey's estate, and he was here every night. And he was just like a mother hen with those soldiers. You know, they'd come in, and he'd say, "Button that shirt, straighten that tie, straighten your hat." But under his breath, and you could just see, you know, the boys. And it was very good happening here, you know.
Sure.
And they kept the restaurant going until my brothers came back,
Yeah.
and my husband.
Interesting. You know, if I could go back for just a minute, I wanted to ask you, when you were younger going to school here, were there any teachers you remembered in particular?
Oh, my
Everybody
God.
seems to remember
Everybody,
somebody they loved or
everybody
somebody they
remembers
couldn't
Miss
stand.
Kavanaugh, Miss Kavanaugh,
Miss Kavanaugh.
Miss
Now, what did
Conley.
Miss Kavanaugh teach?
I think she taught history, and Miss Conley, who became the principal of middle school. No, not middle school, East School. And she was my teacher. She was my oldest son teacher, who's 66 today. And then she was my daughter's teacher, who's in California. And then she was the principal when my son John went to school. So she was with us many years. I don't know. I think she passed away. I'm not sure. Maybe you should check on that.
Do you remember her first name?
Margaret, I believe.
Margaret Conner.
I believe.
Yeah. Anything in particular you remember about certain teachers? And if you want to say something about one you didn't like, we won't.
No,
We won't.
no. I was never in any kind of trouble, so, you're not going to get anything juicy from me.
Oh, okay. But many people do remember, certain teachers.
Yes, they were
especially,
strict.
They liked.
Yes, and some they liked. There was a Miss Hahn. There was a Mrs. Deeks. And she was like a hippie. And she wore her hair very gray, long, just, hanging loose or maybe in a ponytail.
Now,
She
when
wore
was this?
sneakers.
No.
Glen Cove High School.
But what time period?
34,
Wow.
33, I don't know, somewhere. I don't exactly remember the days. But she used to love, she was an English teacher, and she used to love to read. And she read us Anne of Green Gables, which is still one of my most favorite books. And she taught us to love reading
Yes.
because she would act out the characters as she read. And, the girls would read the story and talk about it and go back to class. And she really taught us to love reading.
That's terrific.
To this day, I go to bed with a book. I get up with a book. And my husband was also great. My kids always have a book in their back pocket, and I see that my grandchildren do too.
Very good.
Yeah, and I think I give Mrs. Deeks a lot of credit for that.
It's something that, when you remember a teacher so many years
Yes.
later is having
And she used to come here for dinner with her husband. She was we've gone through the age of hippies, but she was way ahead of their time. There she
Free
was.
spirit type. Like a free spirit.
Exactly.
I thought it was interesting you said that so many, during the war, so many of the men, of course, went away to war. What was it like here then? Because I guess there were so many women who were by themselves at that point. They had their friends and neighbors,
Right.
of course. Anything in particular you remember about that? About friendships or experiences?
Well, in the Orchard House, we became Bluebirds, then Campfire Girls. Then when we outgrew the Campfire Girls, and we used to sell the poppies, and we did all of the things like Girl Scouts do, and we kept in touch, and we called ourselves the Merry Maids, and we did a lot of, if there was a woman that needed a little help because she was a widow or her children were all away, we would do some shopping for her. Well, that's what we did, Then we were about 19, and we're quite a few left, but a lot of us are very old and crippled. But we've stuck together, and we still see each other.
Wow.
In fact, I was out with one of them today. Her name is Helen DeLuca Spinelli, and we went shopping today. So you see, after all of these years, I still have so many, that I'm friendly with.
That's terrific because
Yeah.
obviously in our society today people move around so much.
Quite a few have moved away.
It's,
Quite a few. And now Jean Visalelli, another dear friend, just lost her son a couple of weeks ago. We're going through all of this. As you get older, what do they say, the golden years? Yeah. Believe it. It's difficult, but it's nice that you have somebody that you've known all of your life. It's so different from a new friend.
Yes. Yeah, you mentioned here on this little questionnaire I gave you that when I asked about what events in particular you remember, and you mentioned the end of the Second World War. Tell me a little bit about that and how things changed and what Glen Cove was like then.
There was a lot of happiness. There was a lot of sadness. There was all mixed feelings. A lot of the boys came back, and a lot of boys didn't. And you wanted to go out there and shout, and then you would see the parent of the boy who didn't, and you'd hold back.
Yes.
Do you understand that?
Oh, absolutely.
So we were hanging flags outside, and then I saw a man whose son had passed away, and he turned his head. I said, I couldn't stand it anymore. I says, whatever was up, and don't put any more. We came inside and put the damper on the happy times, you know, but that's what it was like. It was because all of these boys that died were almost like my brothers,
Sure.
you know?
Yeah.
And you were happy for your husband that was coming back. You were happy for your brothers. But you were so sad that the boys across the street didn't come back, you know?
Yeah.
So it's all mixed feelings.
And I'm sure that here there was such a sense of neighborhood. There was a
Oh,
closeness.
That's exactly, it was, everybody belonged to everybody else.
Yeah.
If one mother was out there and slapped a kid for doing something wrong, that kid's mother would say, thank you, because it was like her having another pair of eyes. Today they sue you.
Yes.
And that's why the kids are so unruly.
Yeah.
They have no respect.
I know when I was in school, I thankfully didn't get into trouble very often, but you knew that if you got in trouble in school, you'd
Right.
come home and you'd be in trouble again.
Oh, and much
It would be
harder.
twice.
Right, oh yes. But I know the PTA does a lot of good, but I did a lot of bad too. Because if you have a teacher, you should know her. And you should trust her. If she does something wrong, of course. But do it the right way, not in front of the children. And what they don't teach is respect. That's what I find. I see children that come in here. My God, if I did what they did, you'd be hanging by your ears. But, and no, you wouldn't either, because all my mother or father had to do was just look at you. You know that look?
Oh, absolutely.
You're
I know
Italian?
that look.
You know that look?
Yeah.
And you know, right away come to attention. But today, I say children must sit down. I said, we can't control them. What? 4 years old? What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Oh, I know. My wife and I have 3 sons, and I think we brought them up more the way we were brought up. And in some ways they seem they get along fine, but they do know what it means to have good manners, to be polite
Yes.
and respectful. And
Yeah.
in that sense, they're
And I
quite
don't
different.
blame the children.
No.
I don't.
The
Because
parents have to do
there's a family that comes in, they have 7 or 8 kids, and they're all little. And they sit like little soldiers, they eat their dinners, and they go put on their coat, hat, and they all go out. If they could do it with that many, why can't one, you know? But hey, that's life, right? Things change.
What do you remember in particular about, I was thinking about, you're saying things change. After the war in the late 40s and early 50s, what was Glen Cove like? What do you
All of a sudden, they started to build homes for $7,000. Houses, people stopped moving in. It became like Glen Cove became a bunch of strangers, you know? Whereas there was a time where everybody in Glen Cove knew everybody. The singers were here all the time. If we went to the village, it was so safe. You knew everybody that had business. Even if I was a very young girl, if they'd be out there, hello, Stella, you know, hello, Mr. Stango. And that went all the way down.
Yes.
all through and not only me, but everybody knew everybody, and you felt absolutely safe. Today you don't leave them out the door.
Right. You know,
That's the big difference.
sure. When they were putting in the new homes, this was on land that hadn't been developed.
Yes,
before, I
that was up
assume.
on 4th Street. In fact, where I live now used to be a horse farm. And 50 years ago, I bought a house there, just about 50, 48 foot, whatever. And different developers, they come in, buy up the land and put up the houses. And all of the people from here moved up there, And then all of these houses were left empty, and all of these new people that are coming into Glen Cove live in them. Some of them absolutely wonderful people. Like everything else, there's good and there's bad.
Sure.
But I have the bus boys here ready to go to college. Makes me so proud of them. They're very nice, especially this young man that we have here today. They're very nice. There's a lot of very nice kids. And if you treat them right, you don't try to underpay them, and I treat them like they were my own children.
Sure.
And in fact, those two young girls are both in college, and they're working here. And one of the girls is now a school teacher, and I have one woman working for me for 47 years.
Wow.
Arlene Grennan. She started when she was a very young mother. Now she's a grandmother.
Oh.
And she still works 1 day a week, 2 days a week, but she's still here.
Well, I know people come back to see you because probably about 10 or 12 years ago, when my sons were younger, we used to come here, maybe once a month or whatever. And every time we come in, I remember you're walking around and talking to everyone.
And
the people who they knew you, I know you have your regulars too. Always.
Yes, forever. But Webb Institute used to come for dinner very often, the whole school. And there was one boy, if I could only remember his name, he had red hair. And he married a girl that went to school around here. Is it co-ed or no?
No.
No.
But there was the school that was it Catherine Gibbs or something that was in the what was the Woolworth estate.
Uh-huh.
There was a flight attendant school.
Right,
I think, in there for a while, and the web guys loved that.
So, of course they did. So they used to all come here, and they had this year particularly, oh my God, my tongue's getting mixed up. They had a station wagon. They had a little baby. And they would come into dinner and they would leave the baby in the station wagon. And I'd say, go get that kid. And they'd say, he's fine, he's warm. There's nothing wrong with him. I'd say, look, I'll find a place for him to stay where it'll be quiet, but go and get him. I couldn't cook, knowing that baby was out in that cold. So they would take the kid in.
Yeah.
Many years later, they came back. The man, this little baby, is all grown up and married. Look, Stella, it didn't bother him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was from Webb's Institute. I just don't remember his name.
Well, the current dean at Webb and our former president who retired this past summer, both of them were at Webb in the 60s, and they remembered coming here. They loved it.
Yes. And post-college.
Yeah.
About 20 years ago, when they had their concert between Thanksgiving and Christmas, they would ask us to stay open for them. The chorus did.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher would come with this chorus. And there was a young girl, her name was Sandy, and she was losing her sight. And but she had a beautiful voice. And they told her that if she went to Switzerland, there was a doctor there that she would regain her sight or lose it completely. She knew she was going to lose it anyway, so she went, she came back. She was here last week. totally blind. She went on to finish college. She went for a master's, a doctorate. She still sings. She makes records with church songs, hymns. And she brings in friends. And she'll never forget Stango. She still comes.
Yeah.
This is a long time.
Oh, I know. As I said, when I just talking to people who graduated from Webb
Yeah.
in the 60s and whatever, they always mention coming here as one of the highlights of the
Yeah.
week.
They come back no matter where they go.
Yeah.
When they come back, they come here. They say that this is the only place where it hasn't changed, and they feel at home.
Yeah.
And then they want their children to know it.
Yeah.
I feel proud of that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have to ask you a few things about the 50s. I know one thing that several people, Bert Singer and a couple of other people mentioned when we interviewed them, was Friday nights in Glen Cove. When they looked back to the 50s, that was something that came up with several people. But do you remember? They said just to go downtown.
Downtown.
You'd see
It
everybody.
was so busy. It was like a feast night. All of the stores would be open. That's when we did all of our little shopping. Now, Friday nights were my busy nights here too, so I wasn't a part of all of that, but I knew where they were. And when they finished their little shopping, they came here and told me everything that was going on, But it was, you could buy lots of things. There were nice little stores there, absolutely. I really feel urban renewal wiped that all out. We used to have brigadis. Brigadis used to have all of the most exotic foods from all over the world. And that's where most of the estates bought their things. And I'll tell you this story that I don't know whether you know or not. We had an epidemic of polio. And everybody was scared to death.
Was this in the 50s, early 50s, before the vaccine?
I don't remember exactly when, but I'm sure that if you look it up, you will find the year. You will find the year, but
My brother went through that scare.
okay,
Say late 40s, early 50s.
probably
Because
yes.
I remember when the vaccine came along. And
I don't know whether Gaby was born. What I think was before that. I just don't know, and I don't want to say a year. You could find that out, I'm sure. But anyway, J.P. Morgan had all of his nieces, nephews, family on the island. He lived there, and the people that worked for him. Now it's a whole community.
Right.
But he used to buy everything from Brigadis, meats, everything. And he would call them up. And one of my friends, who's since gone, his name was Familetti, and he would put everything on a little boat, and they would pull it in. And then they had a rope with the boat here and here.
So
Nobody would contact. His grandson got one of the worst cases of polio, and they had to fly the big iron lung. Sad.
Yeah.
But you see, those are the things that now Brigadis is gone. There was no East Fish Market. It was Jimmy was always, okay, Stella, what do you want? I got this today. This is fresh. I get that. That kind of you don't find anymore. Now it's all supermarket stuff.
Yeah.
Very informal.
Yeah. Interesting. Any other places in particular you remember?
Of course, did Bert tell you his store?
Yes.
His department? Everybody knew his mother, his grandmother, his mother and his aunt that started it. And oh God, there was a McMahon had a big everything store, hammers, nails, hardware store.
Uh-huh.
And who else do I remember them there? Then, of course, we had the kosher butcher shop, and they killed their chickens there for the Jewish people. We had Capobianco's been there for many years. In fact, Mr. Capobianco came to America with my father
Huh.
when they were 12 years old.
Wow.
And I don't know if you heard of Patsy Izzo. He had the sand and gravel.
Yes.
He was the other boy that came. Imagine 12-year-old kids. How difficult it had to be for them. And we complain.
Another thing I was thinking about is that I know Barry wants me to ask this question.
Go ahead, Barry.
I was noticing on your jukebox, your DVD, you had a good old Rosemary Clooney. And what do you remember about some of the? Do you remember anything about the music at the time? What did you like?
Well, I know that Perry Como used to come here every Wednesday. Arthur Treacher, Tab Hunter. We used to have in Seacliff a playhouse that all of the Hollywood stars would come to.
Now, where was the Playhouse?
God, I don't know, one little street in Seacliff, I don't remember the name. I'm sure you could look that up too and find out and fill it in.
I
But
live in Seacliff, and I was trying.
and you don't know where it was?
No, not at all. I'll have to.
Yeah, just look. I guess if you go to the library there,
Sure.
they'll fill you. And they all used to come here. This was the place where they came to eat after the play, before the play. And Perry, of course, lived not too far from here. And he had a 15-minute radio show. And he'd be here every Wednesday, pick up a pizza, you know. Then his children came, and his grandchildren.
Yeah.
And my son, who played saxophone, and is a big music lover. That's why you see that kind of music here.
Right.
We have none of the
New stuff.
what they call music today. And there were a couple of young kids came up and they were looking at the jukebox, and they're looking for something to play, and they said, "This must be a place for senior citizens." They couldn't find their music.
Timeless music. What are those?
What they call music. Oh God. But yeah, they're missing a lot, don't you think? Yeah.
I have a son who's 24 now, and he just from hearing it around our house, he really started liking Louis Armstrong and some of the the swing stuff from
Yeah.
the late 40s.
Well, Louis Armstrong was a guy, but this is my opinion. You don't know what they're saying. I don't think they know what they're saying.
And if you
this-
do know what you're saying, they're saying you wish you didn't.
and they're screeching. They're not singing. Just because they could hold a note, they think they're singing. But you know, if you know music, they're not singing, right?
I liked what you had on the
Yeah,
the
I'm
box
sure you do.
there.
People come here and they say, "We come here. It's so relaxing. We could eat our dinner and love that music."
Yeah.
Really, you have no idea how many people say, "Come in, just to listen to that music."
Yeah, I'm sure. I looked at that and I just
Yeah,
smiled. I said,
yeah, that's it.
I have to ask you, since I'm a big baseball fan, I know that some of the Yankees came here. Whitey Ford.
He's a very good friend of
Yeah,
mine.
did he live in Glen Cove?
Yes, he did. He lived up in Roxbury, and he came here for pizza one night to take home. And someone said to my husband was a Yankee fan, worst kind. So he just loved them to pieces. And someone said, "Hey, Gabe, Whitey Ford's just going out." And he said, "Where?" And he ran out after him in the yard. Whitey often tells about the story. He says, "I thought they were going to roll me or something." And Gabe said, "I just want to shake your hands. I'm a big fan." They became like brothers. They were the best friends. I just went to his granddaughter's wedding a couple of months ago in Seacliff. And I see them all the time.
Yeah.
He's a very, very nice guy.
Yeah.
And when we'd go to Florida we used to be closed for the month of February. So we'd go to Florida, and Gabe would like to spend his afternoon where they practiced, spring training.
Right.
And I'd bring my suitcase full of books. And
Sit in the sun.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I coached his grandson in Little League baseball, for a couple of years.
Oh, yes?
Years ago. So he would come
Evan?
to some of the games. Craig.
Craig. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. So I know the Clancys, fairly
They're
well.
very close friends of mine.
Yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
Stephen, Sally, and their children, very, very.
Yeah.
In fact, Sally tells everybody Joni had the 3 kids, and it must have been very difficult because Whitey would go off to play, and here she'd 3 little kids, and she'd call me once in a while. Especially if she had to bring one to a doctor or whatever. And one day, Sally packed her little ballet suitcase and walked out the door, and the man said, "And where are you going?" She said, "I'm going down to Stella's. She knows how to treat people." So she was going to live with me. But that's how close,
Yeah.
And of course, Whitey lost a son, his youngest son, Eddie.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Lyme's disease, I think.
Oh, really?
Nice young man.
But
yeah.
I guess he brought some of the others with him, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, Billy Martin. I think somebody told me he used to come here one time.
I don't know too much because I never was a baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure
They were
if
just
my husband was here, he would tell you, yeah. I knew Whitey because of Joni.
Uh-huh.
I got to know her so well, and Whitey too. But
Yeah.
they come in.
Yeah.
They're nice people.
Well, you certainly had some interesting people come through.
Lots of interesting
Know
people.
over the years.
And I guess you've heard that Joe Swazi, the judge, this was his first job.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. He worked here
That's,
as a busboy and as a waiter,
wow.
raised his children here.
We did an interview with him, I guess back
Did
in
you?
November.
Yeah.
So I think probably
Yeah.
November.
He didn't tell you about his first job?
No, we didn't. Not that I remember.
Yeah.
Huh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So you certainly
I knew him since we grew up together. He lived down the street. We all grew up together.
Now, did you grow up in this immediate
Right
neighborhood?
in this immediate neighborhood, yes.
Yeah.
And it was lovely. It was absolutely wonderful.
If you don't mind my interrupting, I'm curious about the extension on 107 that must have really changed things a little bit, right? They had in the early 60s they added that.
That street that goes in the back of,
It's kind of like that, like a highway.
like a highway that goes down by the,
House?
It's the extension of 10. Yes, that's
Yeah.
right.
that goes
I
down
always wondered
by
what
the
was-
firehouse.
Yeah, I was always wondering
That was
what
supposed to
there
be,
for. Yeah.
that was like a valley,
Oh, really?
It was wonderful. That's where all of the children
That's what I'm curious.
went. Yeah, there was a brook that went through there. And we'd go down, the boys would catch the snakes and throw them at the girls, all that kind of stuff. And there would be frogs on the stones. And the girls would go because that's where we picked our violets and, flowers, jack-in-the-box and all of those things. And it was lush and green. A lot of people called it the dump, but it was not a dump. Nothing was dumped there. It was just, like a valley, with that little stream. The stream runs still down in the village. I don't know now; it's all covered up. But
I think you can see part of it, I guess, on the golf course.
probably, yeah.
Yeah.
And then if they only had, of course, hindsight's better. But if they had any engineer that had any kind of imagination, they could have built the town around that little brook, and it would have been just
That's true.
absolutely wonderful.
You can see,
Right.
the whole terrain is
Right.
very scenic. And
Right.
It just plows right
Yeah,
through.
and the brook was a little pond down by where the firehouse is, down there someplace. It's difficult to try to find out just where everything was, and they have benches there. If they had built that town around that brook,
Yeah, it would have been good.
and just put a facade on the buildings and give them that antique look, it would have been a beautiful, beautiful town. But they put all this glass stuff, and There's no stores. And then, of course, with all of the big malls that came in, it took away from all the poor, the mom and papa stores.
Yeah.
I feel like a dinosaur over here. There are not very many restaurants that are family owned like this.
Yeah. Well, I feel very strongly about that in terms of supporting the independent business
Yes.
people.
They're
They're
the best things of the.
You have to.
That's the heart of a town.
Yes. Yeah.
Once you kill the heart, you kill the town.
Yeah.
Because you get a 7-Eleven and what is there?
Yeah.
And things like that could never happen here.
Sure.
Or places like here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of respect still. But, if you allow all of these franchises to come in, it kills off,
Sure.
yeah, the nice
Right.
little. But that's progress, right?
Well. Maybe. Yes.
Well, how do you stop it?
Exchange, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. You don't stop it. But except in the way you've done, you've been here for a long time, and people still love coming here.
It's because I love it, I think.
Yeah,
I love coming here.
yeah,
And I love seeing my friends. Even if I'm not well, I'd miss it. So
sure.
if I'm home, I'll call and say, who's there?
Sure.
Because they become my friends. Now, there are people that come in, and I'll sit and talk with them. Then somebody will sit there, and I know them, and I introduce them. And before you know it, like on a Friday, it's like a club. 4 or 5 different people will come, not only to eat, but to meet with their friends.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you said there's a kind of warmth that you just
Yeah.
can't find in other places.
It's like an extension of one's home.
That exactly. And the thing is, you don't have to reciprocate. You don't have to say, now come to my house. Forget it. You go home and it's finished, right? Yeah.
My wife would love that comment.
Yeah.
That's right.
Sure. Wouldn't it be nice if you could just meet your friends where you could be comfortable? The music is nice, the food is good.
Absolutely.
And then you meet friends that just spontaneously, it's not that you've,
Right.
have a nice little conversation. You go home, you feel, not only your stomach is fulfilled, but your social life too.
Yeah. I remember years ago there was a little place in Little Italy, just off the corner of Hester and Mulberry, called Puglia's. And it used to be some kind of trotteria, and it was like that. Then it was written up in New York Magazine, and it became a trendy place.
Right.
But we used to go there before, when we'd go into the city. And it was like that. You'd see the same people. We didn't go every weekend, but you'd see the same people.
My cousin was the head of advertisement for Newsday. He's retired now a long time. Not well. But he knew the woman that did the restaurant. She critiqued restaurants.
Right.
And he said, Stella, I'm going to take her here. I said, I can't stop you, but I'm going to tell you one thing. If she likes my food, fine. And if she doesn't, tell her not to come back. But I don't want her to write anything one way or another. And he said, you don't want the advertisement? I said, no. Because if she decides that she likes this food, I don't cook for her palate. I cook for my friends who come here and have been coming here every week for years and years and years. Maybe she doesn't like that kind of food.
Right.
Hey, so if she does happen to like it, and she says she does, her followers will all come. Where are my friends going to sit? Right?
Okay.
That's not fair, right?
Yeah. Reminds me of Yogi Berra's comment about the restaurant. He said nobody goes there anymore because it's too crowded.
Yes. No, but if you're observing and you could see what's going on, she wrote different things about different little restaurants, and it went to their head because her followers came, and before you know it, they put an extension here, they fix this, they fix that. But those people all of those people, if you get one or two steady customers from them, because people are creatures of habit,
Sure.
they'll go back to where they like to go. And they're not going to travel all that way, you know? So my steady customers,
Well, the other thing is that people who come here like it the way it is.
they like it the way it
They
is.
want it to change
Right.
drastically.
Right. And maybe one of my customers will say, I got to get up and get my own fork. You know, I say, hey, you say it's like home? Go ahead. But, you know, they say,
Oh, yes.
kiddingly, and
Sure. Yeah.
no. No, they're very lovely people. And I've seen mothers bring children. I sat grandfathers in high chairs. Now I'm sitting there, grandchildren, you know. And so
That must be very satisfying.
it certainly is. Yeah, certainly is.
Yeah.
Can't imagine too many restaurants with this kind of history now.
Well, as I said, they have all of these fast food prices,
Yeah.
you know? And they go to the window, they get what they want, they go home, the children, but and children don't learn that when they go to a restaurant, they have to sit down. They think it's all,
It's like movie theaters now. Everyone talks and this and
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's right, yeah.
You know, one question I
Go ahead.
had for you, I was wondering what you remember about the estates that were here, because,
They were gorgeous,
yeah.
you know that.
Oh, sure. I mean,
Yeah, they were
talking.
beautiful, and a lot of the people, a lot of those, the very, very wealthy people used to come here. A lot of them. They first started by bringing a pot. My mother was alive, and they'd come in and they'd say, fill the pot with spaghetti and meatballs. I don't know what my mom charged. I was too young to even try to remember. But policemen would come, judges would come. You didn't know. You could be the wealthiest person in the world, sit there, and somebody here would be at the back door saying, Stella, could I get a meal? And I'd say, sit down, just order what you want. I'll sign the check. And nobody would know who's who because you get waited on the same way. And that's how it always was. I never wanted them to feel, you know. And everybody goes through tough times.
Sure. Yeah.
And then they bounce back. They always come back. Another funny story about Stangos, a lot of stories about Stangos. There's that's 3 couples, 6 for 8 people, came every Sunday night and sat here. And they were the last ones in, the last ones out. Every Sunday for years. Now all of a sudden, one of them is pregnant. And she always wore these white overalls. Then one night they called and said they were going to have a wedding party here. Still the same bunch, maybe a few more. And she came with flowers and so forth. Then about 3 weeks later, they all came, and she had a baby. And they put the baby down, they drank, and they ate, and they walked out, and they left the baby. So the boy that was vacuum cleaning, oh my God, she left the baby. I said, don't get excited, she'll be back. So they left about 2 a.m. Everybody, my sons were tired, everybody was tired. They said, call the police. I said, you do that, and they're going to take this kid away from that mother. I said, she's not used to having a baby. She'll be all right. I said, then I sent my son down to a drugstore that was open all night. I said, get a bottle and a nipple. We heated some water, put a little sugar in it, and we're here 4 o'clock. No more than father. So one son is sleeping with his head on the table. Everybody's, you know, the phone rings. Both of them can't talk, you know. Da, 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 da. I says, calm yourselves. I said, watch when you die. They were in Bayville. They had stopped in another place for a drink. Then they went home. They noticed that the crib had no baby, and they forgot. And now, He's blaming her, and she's blaming him. And they walked in the door like they were going to break it down. I said, you're not going any place. You're going to drink a cup of coffee. You're going to calm down. And then you could have your baby. I didn't see them. Must have been so embarrassed. And you know Mill Neck, where they have the deaf, and they have the Apple Festival there? Well, I went there must have been maybe 4 or 5 years. And I hear, Amanda. I said, you still looking for that kid? She lost her again.
Oh.
Isn't that a story? So, oh my God, you're not doing all of this. If you think that you need more of these stories, I don't know.
I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And you're one of the monuments of Glen Cove.
Well,
The title for this.
listen, if you keep living long enough,
Become a money.
that's what happens. You don't have to do anything special, just live.
Yes, live.
And then life comes by with all of its little things.
But if
Here's a family that's been coming in for 1,000,000 years. That's Kitty Care, Chrissy. Hi. We're having a little Glen Cove interview over here. Come here, Kitty. I forgot your name.
Richard Harris.
Kitty chair.
He's from Webb Institute. And this one's going to take a picture.
Pardon me?
He's going to take a picture
Of who?
of you.
Oh, dear. Oh, my.
They want to know about Glen Cove.
Oh,
And and I was just about to tell them about Don that used to come here every single night
right,
for
right.
about 37 years, right? And I never had to go to a doctor. He was my doctor.
Made house calls
Made house
here.
calls, right?
He would be at the bar, and I'd go in, and I'd say, I have a pain over here. He'd say, go home, see if you have a rash. Call me back. I said, yeah, I do. He says, well, you're getting shingles. I'll call the druggist, and I'll send you medicine, take it right away. And that's how it was. And if I needed a flu shot, he'd say, well, pull down your shoulder, and right in the bar, full of men, he'd give me a shoe full, and everybody would start clapping.
Right.
He was a wonderful guy.
In fact, I'm going to give it to Johnny. I'm going to give him a copy of this book, The Tender Bar. Did you read about it?
No.
There's this
Yeah, the
very
Manhasset.
famous bar in Manhasset called Publicans. I was in it a few times because my sister-in-law lived in Manhasset. When I went to the movie theater, we'd go there that is a fabulous bar, Irish bar, where so you have people talking literature, quoting poetry, but talking sports, a real sort of a social club like this was for him. It was a social club,
Right.
arguing about the Yankees and the
That's
Mets
it.
and because that's a very active bar too, like that. It's nice.
Were you familiar with it? And
Pardon me?
Were you familiar with publicans?
Was I familiar with it?
Yeah, other than through the book, or
No, I never saw. I'm not a bar sitter because I don't like the profanity.
yes.
I can't stand the profanity at a bar.
And that's part of it.
Huh?
That's part
Yeah,
of
F is a big part of it. I
Yeah.
would
I
say.
was just curious because one of my brothers-in-law is actually a character in the book. He
Oh,
it.
actually
Really?
Colt.
No.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
No, I had.
It's just 15.
Now do you see what happens in Stangos? Now do you
I
see?
did it there, but I
Now you're
never
living
had
it.
the bar.
You're living it.
I sort of say, women have their coffee clutches, and I guess men have. I
And
don't
yeah,
know what it is.
that's right.
but It's
Yeah.
made me feel a little better about it.
There's always been one or two men that have been in the bar every night, unless they're sick. And then we see what we could do for them. But and you hear a lot of stories from them, A lot of funny ones.
But I don't know. I don't think it's like this because this was more of an Irish bar. It's
Yeah.
Manhasset. Manhasset is famous for two things, like the book says, lacrosse and liquor. The drinking that went on in that bar.
Well, yeah.
And they drove and they drank and they. Oh,
I was probably in there maybe 5 times in all
Yeah.
the years.
I would like to have that.
Go to bars.
I'd like to have that crowd in here. We wouldn't have to be here too long, huh?
and I didn't, I've sat in that bar many times, and I never noticed drinking that like.
No, they don't. No, they don't drink.
That's the major leagues, right?
I know when I-10 bar during the war, when the men used to come and order drinks, I'd say, I think you had enough. Don't you want coffee? They say, if I don't get my liquor here, I'm going to get someplace else. You may as well serve us, you know. So I never like to see
But
anybody
I don't know
drink
why
too
they
much.
never got into trouble.
Yeah.
Now, the owner of that guy's name was Steve. Did you know him?
Yeah.
Oh, everybody adored him.
Yeah,
Said he was the nicest guy.
yeah. It was an interesting crew. I knew them
Oh,
only,
yes, interesting.
not from going there, but I used to play golf with my brother-in-law and,
Yes.
and a bunch of that crew. I used to play golf with them from time to time. So
Oh,
I
you'll
knew all of
enjoy
them.
the book.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
gosh.
looking
Oh,
forward
gosh.
to it.
You haven't read it?
No, not yet. My wife's reading it right now.
Oh.
So, did you tell him how this restaurant started? I love the story about how it started.
The making of the meals and
Well, the men go into the estates and bring the food that her mother
Yeah.
cooked, and I love that.
Yeah.
That would never be the start of an Irish restaurant or bar.
No.
Never food, booze, but
No.
food, right?
No, not
So
with the Irish.
different, isn't it?
No, the Italians are all food.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder how many cooks there were on the estate who were passing your mother's food off as theirs.
And let me tell you, a lot of the cooks from the estates came here. In fact,
Yeah, see the Rolls
We're-
Royces still showing.
when the Coffins lived on the estate, which is now Portledge School, their seamstress in residence and her husband, she was French and he was from Sweden. And they used to come here every night. She was beautiful and he was a little stubby kind of guy, and they had a daughter that looked just like him.
Yeah.
So she used to say, I'm going to make Stella's wedding dress. And she did. I used to go to the estate and ride horses with her daughter because the Coffins would go on trips or whatever, and the horses needed to be exercised. So Matilda would say, come on up, Stella. Well, anyway, while I was riding the horses, her mother was making my wedding dress.
So
Oh,
what is this
God.
for, this little Newsday?
Well,
No.
we have an organization, North Shore Historical Museum,
Yeah.
which we've been working on. We have
The old
building,
police
the old
chief?
police
The old
station.
police, yeah,
and
yeah.
this summer we're finally starting the
Oh.
restoration, I should say, of it.
Yeah, it has possibilities. What is it, sort of Dutch?
I
Art
guess.
architecture, has that Dutch look to it.
Mm.
Yeah, I think that was it. In fact,
Yeah.
it's been so long now since I've read the description of how it started. I think in 1906 or 7.
Yeah, something like
But
that.
I think it is a Dutch style.
I was just reading a thing about the Pratt when they had this, Pratts. They had 21 residencies here in Glen Cove and 61 dependencies. I mean, they had some.
Lot of people.
It was like a little city.
Yes.
But the thing is, they gave the people 3 days' work a week and $3 a day. So they could have hundreds of people working for them. And their property was manicured.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous. In fact, they planted some kind of a plant in the bridle path, where
Yeah.
we rode the horses, that when the horse stepped on that plant, you got the smell of strawberries. Could you imagine?
Where do you live?
I live in Sea Cliff.
Oh, that's a lovely town.
I'm a foreigner. I'm from Wantagh.
Well, I'm going to go join my.
Okay.
Okay,
Nice to
good
meet
luck.
you. Great the building. Anything in particular you remember about the Pratts? There were so many of them around here, I guess.
One lived on Duck Pond Road. It was J.P. Morgan's daughter. And when she got married, she married Panoya. And he gave her as a gift one of his men that worked for him. And the man that worked for him lived across the street, here. And his name was Salvador. And J.P. Morgan liked him so much that he says, I can't give you a better gift. He'll take care of your property. And so he stayed with her from when she got married until he was too old to work. And she'd say, Sally, you don't have to come to work. She was old by then. And he was old because we were both very young when this transaction took place. And she would send a car for him just so that he could walk the grounds because he felt he belonged there. And when they weren't there, we used to go there with his children, you know. So, you know, and the people that were the superintendents of the estates, which there were quite a few, and then the rich people, they became the next rich people because they got a car, all of the fresh fruits and vegetables that they wanted because they had greenhouses, all of the milk and the butter they wanted. They have cows and they churned their own butter. They got their heat, which was coal, delivered to their house, or they lived on the estate. A lot of the Scotch people became superintendents of those estates. And then when the Italians did, they didn't want to live on the estates. They were almost, you had an Italian father, they were independent. So they wanted to live in their own house. But they were given the same things. So they didn't have to spend their money, as little as it was, you know? So, and it was wonderful. And a lot of those people, their children were sent to college by the wealthy people. They became doctors, lawyers, and so forth. Yeah, it was almost like I don't want to say slavery, no. Almost like royalty and the people that work for them.
Right.
You understand?
The aristocrats and the servants.
That's right.
Royalty and the servants.
Right. And then they had different grades of servants.
Well, as I said, if we can, if you wouldn't mind, this has been fascinating. And
I hope I told you something you didn't know.
oh, a lot of things. Very interesting. But as I said, maybe if you think back over things and
Okay.
there's something that pops into your mind, you say, oh,
Something I think you should know, but I don't know. I think we covered a lot. Yeah.
Anyway, it's been
That's fun.
Theoretically, 100 years from now, you just don't know who might be listening to this. That's the idea. You know, it's
And if there's any truth that there's something after we die, I'll be watching.
yes, that's the bonus. Yeah.